I work at Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, and we actually wrote a memo to the Board of Supervisors as to why we oppose Sit-Lie as a law. I think, first of all, just a common sense, I think that it's not good law to make something that's not criminal in nature criminal, which is the act of sitting and lying. But to address the problem that some of the merchants have brought up, we actually have other laws in place that the police can utilize currently under 647C, such as aggressive panhandling, obstructing the sidewalk, loitering. There are current tools that the police department already has that they can use without civilian complaints to deal with folks that are harassing other individuals on the streets. So I'm not supporting Sit-Lie. I don't actually think that it's good policy or good legislation to write in.
I don't want to minimize the concerns of many people who are afraid and intimidated and are fearful to walk on the sidewalks at night. There are many well-meaning people who support Sit-Lie. I think Gavin Newsom has written a poor piece of legislation. It's a poor initiative. I don't support that specifically, but I certainly want to be able to, if I'm elected, I want to be able to sit down with people who've supported the measure and find out what needs to be addressed. You know, this has brought out the wackos on both sides of the issue. It was primarily initiated by some crackpots in the hate, and the immediate reaction is always on the left. Then, you know, the extremes get all stirred up and begin demonizing the others. But there are a lot of well-meaning people in the middle here. Thank you.
Well, once again, I actually support Sit-Lie. I was the president of the police commission for 2 years and on the commission for 5. And loitering and aggressive behavior in various neighborhoods in the city was one of the #1 concerns every time we went to the community. And we had over 100 community meetings in 5 years. Chief Godin, the assistant chief, actually made a comment on public safety the other day that we do have enough ordinances to enforce it. But the fact is before the courts will pursue it in any way, shape, or form, a complainant has to come and testify. And if they testify, then they become targeted when those people go back on the street. I think it's another tool to give to the police. I'm actually an individual who supports giving the police more tools rather than fewer tools, leaving it to their discretion to make these decisions when necessary. They're not going to tell everyone, the grandmother or the mother or the child who's sitting on the sidewalk to move along, but they are going to use it with discretion to basically help them as another tool to control antisocial behavior.
I actually am against this. I think that we have very limited resources, which we are actually going to be looking at with the police budget and the next budgets coming up. The police have the ability to go after aggressive panhandlers, aggressive behavior. They actually, there's a group of folks in the South Beach area. I get a weekly or a bi-weekly report of all of the police actions and the patrol specials actions, and patrol specials actually have a very high success rate of dealing with folks who may provide or may be causing some trouble on the street by sleeping in the street, and have no trouble moving them along with the existing laws. So I think one of the things that we have to look at is we've had a 5-year period of closing down drop-in centers and cutting down benches and firing or getting rid of park directors, so there's no place for people to go who live in very small buildings in the Tenderloin. It's not just the homeless who are actually on the street, and we're asking police to determine who's going to be causing trouble and who isn't. I think that we're in for a lot of lawsuits if this passes, if it is actually enacted.
If the police have enough tools to deal with this, why do you think they support the legislation?
I think it's a political move. Oftentimes things end up on the ballot to rile up the bases.
Then you think that's why the police?
I think a lot of people, a lot of beat cops don't support the Sit-Lie. You know, I've talked to a lot of folks who are walking the beats on this stuff, on the Prop B. A lot of the people who actually do the work for the police department don't support this.
I support the Sit-Lie Ordinance. It's not perfect, but it's better than what we have. We have to acknowledge that right now we have a problem in San Francisco. In some neighborhoods of the city, there are very aggressive, vagrant population that's really harassing legitimate businesses and people trying to walk down the street. What we are doing right now is not working. And so we have, instead of doing the same thing over and over again, we should make a few changes. Now, this law is not perfect. It will not solve the problem overnight, but it is a small step in the right direction. Now, there are other things we can also do. The first thing we can do that would make a big difference is encourage the police to patrol more of the areas on foot, and so that they could go after and arrest the drug dealers who bring drugs into the community. And a lot of the drug use fosters these kind of aggressive behavior that we're trying to discourage. So I would actually prefer to spend more effort on policing in the neighborhoods. But because the Sit-Lie Ordinance is on the ballot, I will vote for it in November.
We have legislation that the police can utilize for Sit-Lie. Sit-Lie is just, it's another layer of a law on top of laws that we already have. Why aren't those laws being enforced? Why aren't we seeing, police out on the streets, doing community policing, becoming a part of the neighborhood? Why aren't they on foot, making sure that our streets are safe? I can look right outside and see, things that are occurring on the streets. Is Sit-Lie actually going to change that? No. If the present legislation isn't being enforced, then why do we need to have another one? We don't need to continue to legislate ourselves into a little box or corner where we can't actually live and be free. I remember even sitting outside my own office being told that, I shouldn't be sitting here because, I look tacky. And it was actually very disheartening because, I was just sitting. It was a great day. I felt that I had every right to. So Sit-Lie, I'm just not for it.
Well, currently, the way the no-sit, no-lie ordinance is proposed, I cannot support it. However, I do look at it as though it would be a tool for our local police department. I do feel as though our local police would use the appropriate discretion in enforcing such an ordinance. However, at this time, as it's proposed, I could not support this measure. Now, if we revisit it and we start piecing it out step by step, then I could start supporting the no-sit, no-lie. One of the concerns that I have is if I decide to have, say, a barbecue or have friends over at my place, I'm concerned that we wouldn't be allowed to stand out in the front of our apartment building or house for an extended period of time. And if one of our neighbors decides to call the police and say we're making a little bit of noise because we're talking or saying our goodbyes, that we could get cited for this. And I have an issue with that. I don't believe that the police would do such a thing. However, I just think that we should piecemeal the no-sit, no-lie. Because our business owners, our residents, we need to be protected here in San Francisco.
The first thing I ask anyone who supports the Sit-Lie law is how much have you given to housing? How much have you given to organizations like the Community Housing Partnership or Larkin Street that have a 98% success rate keeping people off the streets? How invested are you personally in the solution? And then to say to them that after 3 days of incarceration, it costs just as much as giving someone a month's worth of housing with wraparound services. So I just don't see how the Sit-Lie is a equitable or charitable solution to anyone's problems. I actually see it as a way for people to continue to be selfish and not actually care or look at the real problem that is the abuse of people and forcing them to live in the street.